Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about anxiety. And if you suffer from like sudden feelings of like being overwhelmed or stressed or like full-fledged anxiety attacks, I'm going to share with you in this video a 60-second hack that works for me and it works for a lot of other people too. If you're new here, my name's Holly, and my channel is all about how I cured my depression, anxiety, anger, victimhood issues using the law of attraction when I was 60 years old. I am now 65 and living a happy and fulfilling life, pretty much free of depression and anxiety. I do still have periods where I will have feelings of anxiety. I think they're probably related to, I'm sorry guys, but I think they are related to menopause. After I went through menopause, I get what I refer to as zingers every once in a while. And they're kind of just like this intense feeling of anxiety, and it's usually followed by a hot flash. And I thought by the age of 65 that I would be over that, but apparently I'm not. But guys, if you're watching, believe me when I say this anxiety hack will work for you too. Um, when I was in my 20s, after I had both of my children, I had what was referred to as mega anxiety. And believe me, it felt mega. And if you're going through full-fledged anxiety attacks, I sympathize with you because I've been there. And I remember the first time I had one of these, I woke up in the middle of the night and my heart was just pounding. And I thought honestly that there was something horribly wrong with me. Well, for probably the next year, I just suffered from these anxiety attacks, and it got to a point where it really affected my life. And I wouldn't like go into situations that would bring them on, like being in big groups of people, going to the mall back when people went to a mall. And it really became debilitating. Well, the one thing that finally changed my life, and this is not the hack, by the way, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Um, the thing that finally got me past this was realizing after reading a book that mega anxiety is just like it feeds on itself. You have an anxiety attack. Maybe it's caused from just, having a lot of stress in your life. Maybe you're a new mother like I was. And so you have an anxiety attack. And then you become afraid of that anxiety attack. And you become afraid of those feelings. And then that pumps just more adrenaline into your system. And so it just feeds on itself. And eventually you become really almost physically ill from it. Not almost, you really become physically ill from this. And I had all of these weird symptoms like my muscles would twitch and like my bottom lip felt numb. Right before I would drift off to sleep at night, I would almost hear like this gunshot in my head. So many bizarre symptoms that never in a million years did I think that these symptoms were caused from anxiety. But after several trips to the emergency room, my poor ex-husband, he really got put through the ringer with this situation. But like I said, I would go to the emergency room and they would, take my blood and do an EKG and do all these things and never found anything wrong with me. And this basically controlled my life for like a year. And I'm sure it had an effect on our marriage. It had an effect on, me being a good mother. And finally I came across this book, and I don't even know how I came across the book because there was no internet at the time and no Amazon. But anyway, somehow I came across this book, maybe actually in a bookstore. I think the name of it was Nervous Illness, something like that. Probably a real 80s term. But by reading that book, I realized that this anxiety, this mega anxiety, that's what they refer to it now, is just anxiety that feeds on itself. Like you have an anxiety attack, that scares you. You become afraid of the symptoms of your anxiety attack, and that dumps more adrenaline into your system, and it just becomes this vicious cycle of, anxiety and then fear of the anxiety, fear of the symptoms, dumping more adrenaline, and you just really become physically ill from this. But once I realized from this book that my symptoms were actually being caused by my fear of my symptoms, that broke the cycle. And this 60-minute hack, 60-second hack that I'm going to share with you basically does the same thing, only a whole lot faster. You don't have to wait a year and, read a book about it. So when you start to feel a feeling of anxiety or being really overwhelmed or really stressed, and you just had that physical feeling of, almost like impending doom, then immediately stop and take a deep breath to the count of 3 through your nose, and then hold it, exhale through your mouth, and put your hand over your heart firmly and repeat these words. I am peace. I am ease. I am safe. And something about combining the touch, the affirmation, the breath, those 3 things combine, and your subconscious then sends a signal to your nervous system that everything is okay, that you don't have to go into the fight or flight response, which is what causes your, that feeling of anxiety. And it's funny, we as humans originally have this fight or flight response as a response to danger. But for some reason, we've evolved to this point where we have that response to things that aren't dangerous that we just perceive as danger. And we're not really being chased by a lion or, a cougar or something. Oh, you're going to have fun with that one. But that is why we have this reaction, is because it's supposed to protect us. But somehow we humans have gotten messed up and we have this fight or flight response when we shouldn't have it. So this 30-second hack really does work. I mean, it really works. Like I said, since I went through menopause, I have these really intense feelings of anxiety that then lead to a hot flash. I know, guys, too much information, but if I start to feel that and I take that breath and then let it out and firmly hold my hand to my heart and repeat those words, I am peace, I am ease, I am safe, it will trigger a response from your subconscious mind to your nervous system that you're okay. And it really does work. And I'm anxious for those of you that suffer from anxiety, I would refer to these as kind of little anxiety attacks, or maybe you have full-fledged mega anxiety. I'd like to hear from you after you've tried this, because man, does it ever work for me. So after you've had, this anxious moment and you've calmed yourself with those affirmations and by firmly holding your chest, then work on changing your mindset and changing the narrative that's going through your mind. Instead of being like, oh, I feel so anxious and afraid, or I feel so overwhelmed right now. Instead, look at, like, say you're feeling anxious over, you've got a meeting coming up, or you've got to give a presentation. Instead of saying to yourself, oh, I'm so anxious, about I hope I do okay, what if people notice that I'm nervous? Or instead say things to yourself like, I'm well prepared for this presentation. I know I'm ready to give it and that I'm going to do a good job. And just repeat things like that instead of focusing on, oh, I'm so anxious, I'm so worried that I'm going to do a bad job. Try to change that narrative to more positive things that you can tell yourself about whatever you're anxious about. And I think that anxiety is one of those things that really demonstrates how, in a perfect way, how we get back the energy we're putting out. Because if we're putting out anxious energy, our body is going to give us anxious energy back by just fueling that anxiety. That's what we get back. And that's part of what the law of attraction teaches us, is the energy that we're putting out is the energy that we're getting back. And this just doesn't apply to anxiety, it applies to any kind of energy you're putting out. If you're putting energy out every day that you're depressed or you're a victim, that's the energy that you're going to get back, is more of those feelings of depression and victimhood. But I hope this was helpful to those of you that have anxiety. I'm anxious to hear from you if you try this. And, if you'd like to learn more about how I changed my life at 60 years old, then I do have a course and an ebook. I also have an ebook on narcissism, about parental narcissism, and those things are on my Buy Me a Coffee page. I do have a free Law of Attraction guidebook that I'm waiting on from the publisher, and I'm really hoping it's here today. But if you want me to send you that free guidebook, then please email me at my new professional email address that I'm going to put on the screen right here. And when that guidebook becomes available, I will send it to you. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you found it helpful. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.